Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 46th episode of the Manor Podcast. I'm your co-host, Roger Bodee, joined as always with my best friend and other co-host, Michael Hamilton. Michael, what's it like being young and in your 20s?
I am leaving my 20s soon, but I would say it's good. I feel like I really enjoy my life. I don't know. I've been having medical issues popping up. I feel like I'm like, you could tell I'm approaching my 30s.
Mm-hmm. I'm an old man. I have an old man back now, apparently. I'm just giving my dog a bath after just one little day of lifting ancient antique furniture around for my grandmother and then giving my dog one bath. And all of a sudden, I can't move anymore and my back hurts a lot.
Yeah. When we were talking about it earlier, I thought we were going to have to record this podcast. So you like laying down, and I was like, we can make it happen. Better than no podcast.
Yeah. I might start laying down in the middle of the pod. I might just get on the floor and just sprawl out, turn it into an audio only version for myself, but we'll see if I can make it through. I slept all day. I literally slept from I woke up at 9:30, did work from 9:30 to 11:30, ate a quick lunch, and then was back to sleep from 12:30 to 4. And then I had some dinner, and here we are recording a podcast a few hours later.
Doesn't sound like a bad day, except for the back pain, but the sleeping the whole time sounds sweet.
It was necessary. It turns out that your body repairs itself while you sleep. That sleep does have some necessary bodily functions for you. Did you know that?
Yeah. Sleep's good. It's important.
Meh. Sometimes.
You should do it, especially if your body's in pain. Do the sleeping. Helps.
Yeah. But as long as you're feeling good and healthy, don't sleep.
You should still sleep.
If you're hurting and you're sick, sleep. If
sleep
you're
extra
and normal, don't sleep.
We need a disclaimer. This is not medical advice before the start of this episode. So we can't give medical advice, but we can give flesh and blood advice. What are we talking about today, Roger?
I don't know. I think my medical advice is just as good as my flesh and blood advice sometimes. But
oh no,
I think we're talking about the deck lists that seem interesting from the first few weeks of competitive events that have been rolling out here.
Yeah. We're gonna do a deck list deep dive.
Okay. Well, what deck do you want to deep dive in first?
All right, let's talk about the talk of the town, Azalea. So Bodee Spurlock took down the Chicago Min-Max Realm 5K
he did?
event.
This is the first time hearing of that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, with Azalea. And so I've got his list pulled up. I'll go ahead and read through it, then we can talk about it.
Go for it.
So, of course, you're slaying Azalea Ace in the Hole. For equipment, there's Death Dealer, Bullseye Bracers, Crow's Nest, Vianel Spring Tunic, Perch Grapplers, Skullbone Cross Wrap, and Snapdragon Scalers. And for reds, there's 3 Battering Bolt, 3 Bolt and Shot, 3 Drill Shot, 3 Enlightened Strike, 2 Fatigue Shot, 3 Infecting Shot, 3 Lace with Blood Rot, 3 Lace with Inertia, 3 Melting Point, 3 Premeditate, 3 Ravenous Rabble, 3 Read the Glide Path, 3 Red in the Ledger, 3 Remorseless, 3 Seek and Destroy, 3 Widowmaker. For yellow, there's 3 Bolt and Shot, 3 Codex of Frailty, 3 Deadeye, 3 Rain Razors, and 3 Tar Pit Trap. And at blue, there's 3 Bolt and Shot, 2 Infecting Shot, 3 Knock the Death Whistle, 3 Knock the Death Whistle, and 3 Spire Sniping.
So only 11 blues. Do the yellows help enough through these ice heroes? Or does the deck just struggle a lot into channel Frigid, obviously, but just Frostbites in general?
Yeah, Frostbites in general are just very good against Azalea. The yellows help with the resource curve, but they don't help a lot when you're faced with a Frostbite, because suddenly your turn that can function off 2 resources, 1 to load Death Dealer, 1 to fire the arrow, now doesn't work off a yellow pitch anymore, and you really need a blue for those spots. And that's actually why Brody's on 11 blues. I think he kind of talked about his deck list on Arsenal Pass. They had a thing where he talked through his deck, and he said that he had 9 blues in most matches, then boarded up to 11 against the Ice Heroes. So, yeah.
Okay. If only there was some kind of weapon that could threaten like repeated frostbites to help check Azalea in this format. But oh well, what are you gonna do?
To be fair, I think Oldheim is fine into Azalea without a winner's wail. You just load up on your big D reacts, and what's she gonna do? Just fatigue. Doesn't have a weapon that swings for damage. It's hopeless.
But she's the fatigue deck in that matchup.
She's the fatigue deck. Is she the fatigue deck because she has fatigue shot?
Yeah. You're learning.
So I think this Azalea deck is a very solid starting point. I think there are definitely things that will change as the format develops, as people play with Azalea more, but it's doing some really powerful things. It dominates big arrows with impactful on-hit effects. It's weird. Azalea just came out of nowhere with the new set, but I feel like it feels like there's not really anything to talk about here. It feels like it's already been.
So does Azalea like warp the meta in kind of the similar ways that we've seen like the default best deck warp it before? Decks like Chain and Starvo and Prism, like. Is it just at a power level now where it's just going to really start consolidating the meta, or is there just other tools that other decks will just have to start adapting to keep it as kind of diverse as we've been seeing up until this point?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Azalea is going to do to the metagame is if you're playing an aggressive deck without disruption, then you need to be doing something that is powerful enough that it's worth like being vulnerable to all these on hits, because like aggressive decks with raw numbers like Briar, like Phi, are really, really vulnerable to dominated Remorseless, dominated not Reddit Ledger. Yeah, Reddit Ledger. That's the right one. These big dominated arrows that either shut down their turn or punish them very heavily for having their normal turns. And I think you either need a plan to defend against these things or disrupt Azalea like past that, because otherwise you're just gonna like lose your turn to Red in the Ledger, and Azalea can cast it a lot of times, and she's not playing inefficiently at all in order to have access to this. Like all of her cards are outrate, and she gets to draw extra cards with Death Dealer. I think it's just a very powerful deck, and the new tools, the Lace with Blood Rot, the Infecting Shot, are kind of like minor ones, but doing 2 extra damage on hits very big. And then the real big new ones are the Codex of Frailty and Premeditate, that both just let her draw an extra card each turn, are really, really powerful.
Yeah. Do you think they need a emergency ban Codex of Frailty before the Pro Tour? It's just too oppressive. Nobody can ever deal with this card and it's broken.
So I do think there is a solid argument that Codex of Frailty is the strongest card currently in the game. I think someone could convince me of that. I don't think it needs to be emergency banned. Usually emergency bans happen when like a deck is like so far and away the best thing, and there's not really anything these other decks can do to compete with it. And Azalea is doing things very powerful. She is attacking on a axis that we haven't really seen since Starvo, with big dominated on hits and above rate damage, I guess, are the two things. Because I guess Bravo has big dominated attacks, but he is not playing above rate at all. He's usually playing below rate when he's dominating things. So being able to go above rate with dominate is something we haven't seen since Starvo, and that is very powerful. But there are answers to it, and Azalea is also more vulnerable to defensive strategies than Starvo was, where Starvo would just like keep dominating random on hit things for above rate second cycle and even third and fourth cycle, because eventually it's just like they're swinging like evergreens and Autumn's touches at you or whatever. Azalea is not really able to do that, where she's going to use all of her pumps in the first couple of cycles and then there's nothing left. So if you can survive that onslaught, then that's kind of her vulnerability, I think.
So is Codex of Frailty better than Sink Below?
I would say yes, because it's less universal, and you need to be able to empty your hand and not have an arsenal in order to play it. So you can play it, put an attack in arsenal, play that attack, and then cash in your ponder token for a whole extra card. But it's pretty easily a it's basically one card for 2 cards, where you're like, getting an attack back, and then you get a ponder token that turns into another attack. And on top of being just 2 cards for 1 card, you're also getting a lot of selection in what card you get. It's also a yellow card, so it can be a resource card when the things don't line up for it to be good. I think its ceiling is similar to like Art of War, where you're getting reasonably more than a card's worth of value out of your card, and then it's just the yellow. And then this one blocks 2 also, which just makes it slightly better than Art of War, and is also more functional in a mono red hand, whereas Art of War does cost a resource.
Okay. What about so you did a lot into like how you evaluate the card, but what do you think about the frailty card token, but your opponent's selection of like a card from their discard, but them also having to discard? Like there's just a lot on the opposite side of the table that you have to evaluate on the card as well. So it just seems like really tricky to like quantify a card like this.
Yeah, definitely. It's really hard to assign a value to that. Your opponent puts a card from their discard into their arsenal and discards the card. That is an effect that can sometimes be pretty negative for you, and an effect that can sometimes be very positive for you when they're doing that, because like if they don't have an arsenal, then they're losing a card from their hand that could defend and now no longer can, because it's in their arsenal instead of in their hand, so they can't block with it anymore. So that is like a lot of upside, but also sometimes you're giving your opponent whatever specific card they want, like giving the opponent Bravo more access to Crippling Crush. They usually only get 3, and then you're just giving them an extra 1, and that's definitely a net negative in spots. And then the frailty token is just nice upside if they want to play their arsenal that turn, the arsenal you just gave them, or a card they already had an arsenal. Them losing 1 power on it is pretty nice upside, and them losing 1 power on their weapon is also very nice upside, where a lot of the time you get 1 point of value out of it, but it's not like, I think you're not consistently getting the 1 point of value out of it. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. And because of that, I think the value is somewhere between 0 and 1, but hard to,
okay. Fair enough. Okay. I won't push you on it so much further. Is there anything else you want to say about Azalea before we move on then?
I guess the last thing is the Crow's Nest, just getting that quiver slot. It's just, you kind of talked about it before, how you didn't like aim counters, and they kind of finally revealed to us what their plan for aim counters was all along. And it's really powerful. Just whenever you activate Azalea, if you put an arrow there, you can pay 1 just to give it an aim counter. It synergizes very nicely with some of the arrows in the format.
Yeah, I think this was one of our many not on the podcast discussions that we've had. Just spoilers. Sometimes Michael and I will talk about Flesh and Blood, and we don't record it.
Wild.
But I think I was talking to you. It's weird, the design space that they've kind of carved out in Ranger at this point, because now all they need to do is just like give Riptide or Lexi or any other future Rangers like this modular switch where either they have easy access to aim counters or they don't. And as soon as you give a Ranger easy access to aim counters, their power level just shoots up through the roof with all of these extra like effects that these aim counters provide for these above rate arrows. And without it, they're just kind of like forced to play, either jump through the extra hoop to really work for the aim counter, or just ignore the aim counter cards and just kind of play the other arrows that they would have access to at their normal rate. And we kind of see that in Lexi, if we want to jump there next, where she's not playing the aim counter arrows. She's just playing the normal rate arrows and just firing a bunch of them with Voltaire. But it's just an interesting design space, like I said, where for the rest of Ranger for all time, they kind of have this sub talent
of aim counters
cryptically keyworded in aim counters on arrows for the rest of the time. So I don't know.
Yeah, we can jump into Lexi next, since that makes sense. So, oh gosh, Nabe Mobasir. I'm so bad at names. I'm sure I butchered that. Anyway, he got top 8 in the Realm Brawl with Lexi, and he played for equipment Voltaire.
I'm pretty sure it's Naib, if I had to guess.
Naib.
I had to guess. Naib
Did I say
sounds
Naib?
close. Yeah,
Naib
I think you said Naib.
Naib sounds like much. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
We could both
don't
be
do
wrong.
Names.
Yeah, we're both. Anyways, names, they're hard. Do you want to name the name of cards in the deck
Uh,
instead?
I will list the cards. So
Okay.
for equipment, there's Voltaire Strike twice, Bullseye Bracer, Final Spring Tunic, Heart of Ice, New Horizon, Northern Boots, Perch Grapplers, Quiver of Abyssal Depths, and Quiver of Rustling Leaves. For the actual cards, at red, there's 2 Arctic Incarceration, 3 Bolt and Shot, 2 Chilling Ice Vein, 2 Command and Conquer, 1 Death Touch, 3 Drill Shot, 3 Endless Arrow, 3 Falcon Wing, 2 Fatigue Shot, 2 Heat Seeker, 3 Ice Quake, 1 Inertia Trap, 1 Lightning Press, 1 Lightning Surge, 3 Pathing Helix, 2 Premeditate, 3 Searing Shot, and 3 3 of a kind. At yellow, there's 1 Art of War, 3 Bolt and Shot, 3 Boulder Trap, 1 Chilling Ice Vein, 3 Codex of Frailty, 3 Rain Razors. And at blue, there's 3 Drill Shot, 2 Fatigue Shot, 3 Frostlock, 2 Headshot, 2 Infecting Shot, 1 Sedation Shot, 1 Sleep Dart, 2 Winter's Bite, and 1 Withering Shot.
So we were mocking this card, Quiver of Abyssal Depths, but it's making an appearance here. I'd be curious if this quiver was ever activated and it was relevant at any point in time when it's in this list.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it, but I'm not sure. I think like if you're against an Oldhim opponent and they are threatening to fatigue you, it's I think it's better than putting Remembrance in your deck.
Sure, because it's not in your deck and
You don't have to draw it. You can turn one of your blues into Remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
You lose out on Quiver of Rustling Leaves, which is not a very big cost to lose out on, where you can pitch a blue to try to trigger this, which isn't even that likely to hit in this list. There's a decent number of non-arrow cards in the deck. That said, I'm not sure it's worth a sideboard slot. I'm not sure that just being able to pitch a blue to shuffle 3 arrows back in your deck is going to make a difference in the fatigue matchups.
That's fair. So the other thing that's going on in this deck that's kind of interesting is there's a lot of one of effects or attacks, or like 2 of attacks. And that's kind of making it so that maybe you can block with some of these things on first cycle, or if you just want more of this particular arrow effect in the matchup, it kind of turns Codex of Frailty and kind of to like this even more tech toolbox card where you're not only just getting whatever good rate attack you're needing for a particular situation, you're also finding particular effective on hits as well that you're trying to push through. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's especially like that kind of really shows up with the 1 copy of Death Touch in the deck, where this is a card that you never want to draw 2 of. You're not even like super happy about drawing the first one, but there's going to be some turns where it's the best card to Codex back by a reasonable amount. It's just like 1 more damage better than like the Infecting Shot that you would get back otherwise. And that is very valuable to have access to that.
Mm-hmm. Especially after you've already presented a lot of on hit, like threatening arrows on the turn cycle. Your opponent might not have any cards left to block with or any armor. And then just coming in with the Death Touch, like you said, is going to be more than likely just the most amount of damage you can usually present to your opponent.
Mm-hmm. And turning your Codex of Frailty into an attack that deals essentially 8 damage if it hits and gets the Bloodrock Pox token.
And
then also draws a card off the ponder for 1 resource, 8 damage, draw a card for 1 resource. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So
I think the only thing that might be a little weird is there's only 2 Premeditate, but I guess Lexi isn't really focused on pumps as much as a deck like Azalea is, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on have a bold claim here and say there probably should just be 3 Premeditates in the deck. I think the card is very good.
You think it's better than Icequake?
Yes, I do. It's very strong. A ponder token on hit is generally better than giving your opponent a frostbite. 1 card is usually better than 1 frostbite. You also, it costs 0 instead of costing 1. So
you can't ice fuse with it though. So I mean,
you can't ice fuse, and you can't activate Lexi to give them a frostbite when it's in your arsenal. So it does have downsides where it is not always better than Icequake, but I think the card is just powerful enough that you should probably be including 3 of.
While we're talking about ice cards, how do you feel about Red Arctic Incarceration here?
Arctic Incarceration is a card that has shown up a decent amount in Lexi. It's kind of been on and off, where the fuse lists almost always play it. a lot of time they play 3 copies of it. The Fuseless lists.
The Fuseless lists?
Yeah, the Fuseless Lexi lists. You sometimes play it, sometimes don't. It's pretty powerful. When you play it and your opponent doesn't have a blue in hand, you give them 3 Frostbites and it just like ruins their turn. And that happens a lot. We kind of talked about the Azalea list earlier, how it had 9 blues into a lot of the aggressive decks. It might board into 11 against Lexi because Lexi can threaten to give you Frostbites and stuff. But like when you have 9 or 11 blues, a lot of your hands aren't going to have a blue in it. And when you eat an Arctic incarceration, you don't have a blue in your hand. That's
you don't get a turn.
Breaking. Yeah.
So that definitely does seem like a good tech card, and I could see even playing some more of those, depending on how the meta shakes out as well. I think the one card that also kind of stands out to me that we maybe some other podcasters have talked about as being maybe overrated in the past in this list is Command and Conquer. I don't know that just raw Command and Conquerors are necessarily fixing either your mirror or your matchup into Azalea. I just don't think it's doing enough on its own in those situations.
Yeah, I think it is. I would go on a limb and say it's for Dromai and the Mirror mostly. The same reasons that I had.
Oh yeah, I forgot that deck exists.
Dromai.
Yeah.
Your favorite deck.
I guess sometimes you sort of, but like Lexi's not as bad into Dromai as Azalea's, right? She's able to kind of have easier access to go again and can shoot some arrows to clean up the more threatening dragons if she needs to.
Yeah, I would say Lexi can struggle into Dromai. It can be pretty tough to just like sink a whole arrow into a dragon because the dragons are going to attack you. You don't have a popper, and then you spend a whole arrow and a resource to load that arrow to take out the dragon. It's not a great exchange a lot of the time, but I guess if Dromai is good, I would expect her to be good against Lexi.
Yeah, I would. Death Touch is a popper, so I don't know. Maybe just play. I don't know. Poppers just don't respect Dromai. Just don't care about poppers. That's my advice. Who cares?
Yeah, I think Dromai is a deck that has been held down because even when she's not seeing any success, people still respect her. They still bring their 3 poppers. They're like, I will not lose to Dromai.
But are you not losing to Dromai because you have 3 pop? Like, oh, we did it. We got 3 poppers in my list. I can't lose to Dromai now. It's just like, is that really the difference between winning and losing? And if that's the case, the hero is even more unplayable than I'm giving her credit for. If she bolts to 3 poppers in a deck, she's like, oh no, my opponent has 3 6-powered attacks. How can I win?
Yeah, the difference in game between them having 0 poppers and them having 1 popper on any turn is like huge. So when you have 3 poppers, you have 3 outs to draw the popper on the turn that it matters, the turn that it would shut down the Dromai. And they're just powerful, I guess. Dromai is quite vulnerable to poppers. They fixed the issue with Prism, where Prism's like, yeah, you have poppers, nice. Here's my auras. I'm going to attack you 15 times for 1 damage each.
That was a good illusionist, man. I miss her.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Lexi then?
Yeah, I will say there are some cards in this list that are kind of interesting. They're not even Codex targets, and they're still one-ofs. Like there's 1 Art of War, 1 Lightning Press, 1 Inertia Trap.
1 Lightning Surge.
1 Lightning Surge. Lightning Surge is it can be a Codex target, but the deck it wouldn't surprise me if this deck gets refined more. And Lexi is a deck that we've kind of talked about being more difficult than Azalea to build on week 1 of a brand new meta. There's a lot more options you have instead of just jamming the best pumps and the best arrows. I would say there's more to figure out, and seeing all these different one-ofs, it wouldn't surprise me if Naib was doing some experimenting this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Lexiolus move towards more 3-ofs and somewhat less 1-ofs and 2-ofs. Though, I guess if you're in a top 8 match and your opponent's deck list has 1 Lightning Press, like you can't respect it. You can't play around it most of the time. You're just like going to get got by it.
Yeah, fair enough. Unless they flip it up in their arsenal and then like about
ability.
it.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's going to happen sometimes.
Okay. Ready to move on?
Yeah. You want to talk about Dromai?
Yeah. Your favorite deck.
Okay, let's talk about this very playable, very good deck that won 1 whole event now and is clearly tier 1 and the best deck in the format that everybody should play at the Pro Tour.
So Zachary Wallach. Wallach. I'm going with Wallach.
Okay,
Wallach
I'm not gonna fight you on it.
took down the AGE Open with Dromai. For equipment, there's Storm of Sandakai, Crown of Providence, Flamescale Furnace, Ghostly Touch, Mage Master Boots, Northern Gloves, Silent Stilettos, and Silken Form. At red, there's 3 Blaze Headlong, 3 Burn Them All, 3 Command and Conquer, 2 Dust of the Red Desert, 3 Dust Up, 3 Enlightened Strike, 3 Fate Foreseen, 3 Invoke Asvali, 3 Invoke Chromai, 1 Invoke Dominia, 3 Invoke Kyloria, 3 Invoke Miragai, 1 Invoke Uvia, 1 Invoke Tumultai, 3 Invoke Vinserakai, 3 Invoke Yenderai, 3 Oasis Respect, 3 Rake the Embers, 3 Sigil of Solace, 3 Sink Below, 3 Sweeping Blow. At yellow, there's a Remembrance, everybody's favorite card.
Ooh, broken.
And at blue, there's 3 Ember Moss Enipy, 3 Enigma Chimera, 3 Passing Mirage, 2 Phantasmal Haze, 1 Semblance, and 3 Sweeping Blow. So I guess first thoughts, this isn't like the super red heavy list of Dromai that we've seen where they're like almost all reds, very few blues. There's 15 total blues in this deck. It's looking to cast the bigger dragons.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking to just beat a ranger, like if you invoke Tumultai and blow up their New Horizon, Lexi should just concede on the spot at that point, especially if they already have 2 cards in their arsenal. And blowing up
Skullbone
Crosswrap into Azalea really makes it so they can't consistently dominate their arrows as well as they would like to. So I like Tumultai. You know, if there's one thing that sells me on Dromai and makes her not be completely unplayable garbage to your hero, it is Tumultai. Dominia too, but you know, especially Tumultai. If you could play, if that dragon wasn't legendary, I'd be all in on Dromai. But they are
breathe fire and all these equipment.
Yeah, that'd be sick. But you can only do it once, and then you're sad, and then that's it.
Yeah, I guess if Riptide could play 3 Spike Pit Traps, that would shore up the Azalea matchup as well.
Sure.
But yeah, Tumultai is very good in the Rangers. Having a deck that can support casting.
Whoa. I'm not going to let you just sneak that one right. Oh, you said Tumultai. Oh, I thought you said Dromai. There's so many eyes. I'm just like Chromai, Dromai, Miragai, Tumultai,
Phi. Throw him in. He can be a dragon.
Chromai, and Dromai. I'm still not sure which one's which a lot of the time.
Yeah, so Tumultai is very good into the dragon or into the Rangers. What Dromai is able to do with good defensive cards going long, these dragons that will take a full attack to clear against a deck that doesn't have weapons and doesn't naturally have a high popper count. If Dromai is good, the Ranger metagame is where Dromai should shine.
I don't know about that one, but we'll see, I guess. I was needling Mara a little bit on Twitter because she was like, she posted a picture like, this is not okay or something like that. It was like this 14 power arrow with a bunch of odd hit effects on it, and it had Dominate. And I was just like, just cast Sand Cover. Easy, you know, done. You did it. You don't have to care about Dominate. You have Sand Cover. It's broken. You got to cast block for 3 and cast Sand Cover. What does Azalea do? You did it. You covered it up. You block 7.
Yeah, no copies of Sand Cover in this list, interestingly.
3 Oasis Respite, though.
Yeah, you can pitch a red, cast your Oasis.
3 card 7. That'll show them. That'll show those Rangers who's boss.
8, you're probably behind, so you'll gain a life off the Oasis.
That's true. That is probably true.
One thing really noteworthy about Oasis, I think it's a card that has been historically overrated. It is not it's not easy to spend the resources on your opponent's turn that you get by pitching a blue to cast this. Dromai can cast it by just pitching a red. You spend 2 cards for 4 points of value and you get an Ash. Ash is kind of important. It's not the worst deal in the world. And in the right metagame where Oasis plus a 3 block is covering up things that you need to cover up, it seems okay. I don't think we're in this spot like you were alluding to when arrows come in for 12 dominate. Your 3 block plus an oasis isn't going to get there and covering it up.
No,
So
that is not the solution I would be looking towards.
yeah,
Although if we're playing this many blues, maybe you can start looking to like cards like Unmovable. Like if you're actually doing it, like if you actually can have like enough blues to consistently play it, or maybe you just cast the Unmovable and make 3 ash. You know that's a pretty good deal when your Unmovable starts making you 3 ash, Michael.
Oh no! Stop.
That's 3 future sand covers prepaid.
Oh my god. I don't think you can get to Unmovable with only 15 blues. It's just like not consistent enough.
Yeah, that's why I said sometimes you got to make 3 ash with your Unmovable. You know,
you can sure do that. So even though Dromai has like a lot of things that should be pretty good against Azalea, like dragons that are hard to kill, and Azalea has a low popper count.
Dromai still let it go again to like target specific dragons. It's usually she's coming in with 1 big attack on a turn, so it's annoying for her to clean up like the Aether Ashwings or little dragons.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is Dromai is still extremely vulnerable to Red in the Ledger, which is kind of Azalea's crutch for anything that would be tough that is going wide. Is she just dominates the Red in the Ledger, and that hero doesn't have a real turn. They just do one thing. They, as Dromai, you play your Mopey dust up for 4 or whatever, and can't do anything else. So
yeah, you can have 30 dragons on the battlefield. You get hit by 1 little Red in the Ledger, you get to attack with 1 dragon.
Though if you have 30 dragons, you're probably okay. It's usually like when you have like 3 or 4 dragons, you get Red in the Ledger, and you're like, dang.
Sometimes until they go there, they're like, oh, okay, I survived this Red in the Ledger turn. The next one, I'll get. And then they come in with like, and then they Codex, and then they pump it to like 20 power. And you're like, oh, well, the next one, I'll be okay. And then they knock the death whistle, and they give the next one dominate and pump. And you're like, okay, the next turn, my 30 dragons coming in any point, any day now. I'm going to get to attack, and then you're dead.
Yeah, fair.
Dromai. Certainly a hero people the most played in very many tournaments. I'm just happy to see that, you know, finally it won something, you know. What a world.
So congratulations to Zachary on taking down the AG Open with what Roger considers to be the worst hero in the game.
Yeah.
Worse than Levia.
Misty could probably have top 8 at just as many tournaments with Dromai as the rest of the field at this point.
Yep.
Look at her go.
She's having a time. She loves the camera. Okay. I guess last thing is there's 2 Dust of the Red Desert. That's a card we got.
That fixes the Oldheim matchup. You can't lose that one now because you have Dust of the Red Desert. You can't pop it. What do they do?
A card we got in Dynasty that was basically all Dromai got in Dynasty was these new ashes that are okay against high popper decks, but you have to spend a whole extra card. It does make your thing lose Phantasm, which is nice, but
yeah, then you get to come in with your Benserikai, and how is Oldheim ever going to block a 6 power and attack, Michael? Can you think of a single time the mighty Oldheim could block 6 power worth of an attack and then somehow be able to swing back 1 power in order to kill it on the following turn? Can you think of a single time where that's ever happened?
So Dust does help against an Oldheim that's trying really hard to fatigue you. It forces him to spend 2 cards to block this. If you have a bunch of time, you can set up 2 Dusts. You can play 2 Vincerikais in the same turn, attack with 2 Vincerikais, and attack with the rest of your board. If they don't pop the rest of the board, and if they're blocking out the Vincerikais, they're not able to pop the rest of your board because they use 3 cards or 4 cards to block them out. So it is powerful. Is it enough to fix the matchup? I don't know. The matchup is like, I've always thought it was just like a really skill testing matchup from the Dromai side more than it was a bad matchup. You just have to pitch deck really well and play your Chromais when they matter, play your Mirror Guides when they matter, and build up a board over time. So I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Dromai beating these like really defensive Oldheims with, especially when they're including Dust in their deck. But the main matchups that are problematic on top of just like the deck being not amazing overall is these decks that are like pretty aggressive and also have high popper counts, like Rhinar, Levia, Bravo,
Bravo. Yeah.
even the more aggressive versions of Oldheim. It's just really hard for Dromai to race these decks when they're able to swing high amounts of damage a lot of the time with some form of evasion, either dominate or intimidate in Reinhar's case, and just have poppers for your crackback that you're trying to race. So yeah, Dromai, I still think there's maybe something here that we haven't found out, but there's some serious things you have to overcome when you're playing Dromai.
Mm-hmm. Like the fact that you're playing Dromai. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about this guy. What about this guy, Michael Hamilton, and his Icelander deck? Do you want to read off his list?
Yeah, so this random guy got fourth place at the AG, or not AG Open, the
You
Chicago
did?
Brawl.
Congrats,
no,
dude.
the Chicago, the min-max 5K Chicago Realm Games Brawl.
Okay.
With Icelander. For equipment, there's Waning Moon, Alluvian Constellus, Coronet Peak, Crown of Providence, Final Spring Tunic, Ironhead Gauntlet, Iron Rock Gauntlet, Metacarpus Node, Northern Hood, and Storm Striders. At red, there's 3 Aether Ice Vein, 2 Command and Conquer, 2 Encase, 3 Enlightened Strike, 3 Finals Fighting Spirit, 3 Scar for a Scar, 3 Sink Below, 3 Winter's Bite, 3 Wounded Bull. At yellow, there's 2 Aether Ice Vein, and at blue, there's 3 Aether Hail, 3 Aether Ice Vein, 2 Blizzard, 3 Brain Freeze, 2 Brothers in Arms, 3 Channel Lake Frigid, 3 Cold Snap, 3 Emirda Scolding, 2 Energy Pot, 3 Frost Hex, 3 Frosting, 1 Heart of Fiandal, 3 Ice Bolt, 3 Ice Eternal, 3 Insidious Chill, 3 Polar Blast.
Small correction. It's 3 Energy Potion. Energy Pot's not a valid card in the game. It's Energy Potion. Just
two Energy Potions. Did I say Energy Pot, really?
You did.
Oh, well. What can you do?
Yeah. If you registered Energy Pot in your deck, you'd have an illegal deck because there's no such card.
So one thing to note, this deck, it keeps creeping up how many reds it's playing. We got our stuff banned, we add more reds. We need to address the Ranger Menace, we add more reds. It was definitely a problem over the weekend where I had hands where I draw 3 or 4 reds, and it's not great. There's just the quality of blues without Amulet and Hypothermia has gone down definitely. And
yeah, to be fair, the good news is a lot of these reds do cost 0 Encase, Enlightened Strike, Scar for a Scar, Winter's Bite, Sink Below. So it's not the end of the world drawing 3 reds a lot of the time with this. It's the when you draw like Aether Ice Vein, Wounded Bull, Finals, Fighting Spirit, all in the same. That's when you're in some trouble in a hand, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that is an issue I was coming across over the weekend where I would draw Ice Vein, Wounded Bull, Encase, and maybe like a blue Emirda Scolding or something. And I'm like, well, can't really fuse this Encase, can't play the Ice Vein. I can play the Wounded Bull and block with the other 2 cards, but that's not really where you want to be with a lot of your hands. You usually want to like have a blue to play your Arsenal out, and then have another blue to Arsenal a new card, and then have another blue to play your Wounded Bull. And you need a lot of blues, and that was definitely a problem I was running into.
So is it time to just start throwing the other blue Fableds that you can? Should we start putting Eye of Ophidia in the deck to make sure you're filtering to making sure it's opt to make sure you're going to hit a blue in the next 2 cards? Just keep throwing Fables in here to fix the problem.
Yeah, I don't think just throwing more money at it will answer the issue. I think there might need to be some looking at the deck, looking at what blues actually line up well into what the Rangers are doing. Since the Rangers are both pretty difficult matchups, and I think the Reds help Encase was definitely good over the weekend, but you can only put so many reds in your deck before you're running into issues. So really looking through all the blues that are legal for Icelander to play and seeing if any of them kind of solve.
You could always swap red Winter's Bite for blue Winter's Bite. It's obviously pretty mopey, but like they do a lot of the same things versus Rangers a lot of the time.
Yeah, I could see blue Winter's Bite, especially against Azalea, where a lot of the time they can like hedge by holding 1 resource to play around a Frostbite to make sure they can still shoot their arrow by holding an extra red. If you give them a Frostbite, they just pitch their extra red. If you Winter's Bite them, give them a Frostbite and strip the card from their hand, then suddenly now they can't shoot whatever they were trying to shoot. And
okay, sorry, go ahead.
And that could just like completely turn an Azalea turn that would have been like 10 damage from 2 pumps and an arrow into just a 0 damage turn. So definitely something to consider there. The fact that you can play it at instant speed with Icelander's ability is very powerful, and then it also does work well with 3 or 4 card hands where you can just play it and then do other things.
Mm. It's probably niche, but like if they are on 2 cards for whatever, and it's double red hand, and they try to load in an arrow with Death Dealer by pitching a red, and they don't have Tunic up, so a pretty niche situation. If you play Blue Winter's Bite, since Death Dealer is a sorcery or not instant speed activation, you can just nab the last card out of their hand, and then they don't get to load anything with Death Dealer. So that's kind of cute.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I thought about it, I was like, ooh, that's a really cool thing. And I was like, well, what about that? What about that? What about that? What about that? I was like, oh, this is probably going to be more niche than I actually gave it credit for. But maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not nothing. And when you're just looking for more blues, it's reasonable. I think Blizzard's also a card I was undervaluing where I don't really like it against Lexi, but I think it might actually be good against Azalea because a lot of the time she wants to play a Rabble, she wants to play a Bolt and Shot, she wants to play an E-Strike with Go Again. And like Blizzarding these cards can really shut down her turn, just end it entirely when she's on such a low blue count.
What about Channel the Bleak Expanse? Do you think that stops Azalea from drawing cards off Death Dealer, right? That's a pretty good effect.
It does do that. That's about all it does. Is that good enough? Maybe.
Lexi plays 3 of a kind. You flash in your Channel the Bleak Expanse. Got him. No, not something you're interested in doing.
I do think how often Azalea Death Dealers does make it like really worth considering compared to like before, where if you had it in against Briar, like you would just wait until they played Tome of Harvest, which is a card they like pitched half the time they drew anyway, and they only had 3 copies of it, and that's the only thing you really wanted to hit with it. Or even against Fi, where they had Belittles and Art of Wars that were pretty good targets, it just like wasn't coming up often enough that it was worth arsenaling it. I think against Azalea, who's Death Dealing every turn, that might actually be worth it. And then against Lexi, even where you're shutting down her 3 of a kind, you at worst you could trade it for a Ponder token, which she has 6 cards that are now making Ponder tokens that you're not really stopping. It's not the worst thing in the world.
That's fair. I'm also just looking through all the blues in the world at the moment, trying to see what else I can talk you into. That's really bad.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to solve Icelander right here in this podcast. I think there is stuff to explore if you want to work on Icelander. I don't think the deck's dead, but I think it's definitely need to do some retooling, and it's a tough thing to figure out, where it was so much easier to just like disrupt Rosetta Thorn than it is to figure out how to disrupt these rangers.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. I think the issue still might be solved by just throwing more money at it, just get some more Fableds in there, and we'll just start going from there, just up the deck list, up the price up.
Yeah, because it's not expensive enough right now.
Yeah. Lay down your gold cold foils. You already got gold cold foil for like half the thing, and your professional super special Icelander thing. Your opponent will be so dazzled by the price tag of your deck, they'll be like, oh no, I can't see. They won't be able to concentrate, and you'll win games that way.
Yeah, I see the corner of this Fabry link. It says it's $1,500 already. So
yeah, make it more expensive, and your opponent just won't be able to play the game anymore.
Ready to move on?
Yeah. Where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about Kano real quick.
Okay. What about him?
So you pronounced the player's name. I don't want to. I feel like I've messed up so
Kai.
All right. So Feiyu took Kano to 3rd/4th place in the.
It did win a Green Tree event against Charles Dunn over the weekend in Pennsylvania. Tried my best to find that list. Couldn't find it. So we're talking about this Kano list instead. But Kano seems to be popping up a little bit. He seems to be the dark horse wizard that people might be sleeping on a little bit. But go ahead.
Yeah, kind of out of nowhere. But for equipment, there's Crucible of Aetherweave, Waning Moon, Alluvian Cancellus, Final Spring Tunic, Metacarpus Node, Ragamuffin's Hat, Spellfire Cloak, and Storm Striders. So, I guess noteworthy here already, there's 3 different chess pieces with Alluvian, Final Spring Tunic, and Spellfire Cloak. I'm going to move on. Reds, there's 3 Aether Dart, 3 Aether Flare, 1 Aether Quickening, 3 Aether Spindle, 3 Aether Wildfire, 3 Blazing Aether, 1 Cindering Foresight, 1 Dampen, 3 Snapback, 3 Swell Tidings, 3 Tome of Aether Wind, 1 Voltic Bolt, 1 and then at yellow there's 1 Chain Lightning, 3 Lesson in Lava, 3 Sonic Boom, 3 Tome of Final. At blue, there's 3 Aether Dart, 3 Aether Flare, 3 Aether Quickening, 3 Emeritus Scolding, 3 Energy Potion, 1 Eye of Ophidia, 3 Gaze the Ages, 1 Potion of Deja Vu, 3 Prognosticate, 3 Sap, 2 Scalding Rain, 3 Singe, and 3 Zap.
What was the other potion that wasn't energy potion?
Potion of Deja Vu.
Okay, cool. And then what
Potion
was
of Deja Vu.
And then what was the other potion that wasn't energy potion?
Potion of Deja Vu.
Oh, okay. I feel like you've said that before, but I couldn't remember, you know?
Yeah, that's a weird feeling you have there.
Yeah, they should put a name on that.
So Kano doesn't looks. There's a lot of one-ofs in this. Again, there's the 1 Aether Quickening, 1 Cindering Foresight, 1 Dampen, 1 Voltic Bolt. There's no Codex of Frailty in this deck. Why so many one-ofs?
Because you're just drawing a lot of cards. You're just flipping them off the top and hoping it's and you're also scrying a lot in this deck too, right?
Yeah, you have the Eye of Ophidia to opt to, and then you have the Gaze the Ages to opt to also.
And then Sonic Boom, right?
Blessed in Lava.
Sonic Boom deals damage. Look at the top card of your deck. If you do, you may play it this turn. I thought there was one.
I think you're thinking of Blessed in Lava, which goes and finds a card and puts it on top.
Yeah. I thought there was one that also scryed equal to the amount of damage you dealt.
Oh, that's Aether Spindle. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. There's too many Aether cards, you know. They just all start to Aether together.
They all blur together.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that does make sense. You have more ways to look through your deck for specific things. You can have more specific things in your deck to go find. The one thing that stands out to me a little bit is the 1 Dampen. I guess it's for dragons because it can go to any target. Not sure.
Maybe it solves the mirror.
Maybe. I don't think either of us are Kano experts, so I don't know if there's really a lot to say.
I should become a Kano expert. I can see I think it's the Pro Tour. People will bring Kano. I should be one of the people who brings Kano to the Pro Tour. All the good people do it, you know, like Sasha and Hayden and in Alexander Vore and all the really smart, good wizard people bring Kano to the Pro Tour. And they always seem to do. I should be one of those smart, really good wizard people that brings a Kano to the Pro Tour.
None of the smart wizard players bring Icelander to the Pro Tour.
No. Those are the easy mode wizards. You can't cut it on Kano. But I imagine this deck is okay into Azalea. You mentioned the 3 chess pieces. I imagine you're playing Spellfire Cloak into Azalea just because you're trying to go off as fast as possible. And it's not like Azalea is going to Arcane Barrier you a bunch because they just are playing 9 to 11 blues most of the time. So your combo is pretty good to go if you hit it early, I would imagine. So I think that's kind of why we've been seeing him pop up a little bit more. I think he might struggle a little bit more into Lexi just because Lexi can play the Shock Charmers for the 2 whatchamacallit? No, not Null Rune. Spell Void, yeah. But even then, I don't think the Lexi list we just looked at was where we're playing Shock Charmers, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think Lexi's a deck that if she wants to beat the Ranger, she is very, very capable of it. She has Heart of Ice, she has Shock Charmers. She just has the tools. She has Frostbites. She can she's not very committed to her turn before she takes the first thing.
Naib's list did have Heart of Ice. I remember that card was good in TO.
Mm-hmm. So Lexi definitely has the tools to beat up Kano, but can she afford to commit those tools in the meta game where she has to deal with Azalea, she has to deal with these Oldheims, she has to deal with all these other
everything
decks,
else, yeah,
literally every other format,
yeah, except for
poppers for Dromai. Poppers for Dromai. You got to make room for them.
Uh-huh.
So when Kano is a deck that isn't respected, when people are cutting their Arcane Barrier, when they aren't playing hate cards like Oasis, Kano is a deck that can really take down events, and it's capable of some of the most explosive turns in the game, with Aether Wildfire being, I don't want to say one of the strongest cards in the game because I don't think it is, but like it is capable of leading to some very, very, very broken.
It's one of the best setup cards in the game.
Yeah.
Like it's like Luminous Ascension. Like Luminous Ascension by itself sucks, but like it's one of the best setup cards in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So Aether Wildfire leading to some turns that are upwards of 40 damage when your opponent doesn't block at all. It's very, it can be very powerful when, very potent when it is not respected. And yeah, we saw Kano do well at the AGE Open. We saw it take down the 1K this weekend. So yeah, Kano, a deck to at least think about.
Yeah. So we're at 53 minutes here now. I don't want to talk about Uzuri. I'm done. My back's starting to hurt me. Can we wrap things up?
Oh no, we're gonna skip Uzuri, but that's the sweetest one. We should have skipped Kano.
How's Uzuri the sweetest one? Uzuri sucks.
She's a cool new hero.
We skipped Briar. I think Briar is more relevant than Uzuri.
Oh, what's Briar done well at?
The top 8 of the same event you just top 8'd. Or just many Briars and the top 8 is Icelander.
Yeah, but I like Icelander. We have to talk about Icelander. All right, we'll talk about Uzuri another time.
Yeah, we have an Uzuri special next week.
We got to talk about Uzuri and Katsu next week. There we go.
Okay.
The 2 new heroes that aren't good.
Oh, boy. Okay.
All right.
So any other final thoughts before we wrap things up here then, buddy?
Yeah, I think despite the results of the Chicago tournament being an Azalea mirror in the finals, I think we're actually in a pretty open meta game, at least until we find what actually breaks it. But I think Azalea is going to shut out some of the decks out of the format, but I don't think it's like the go-to best deck. I think there's going to be decks that beat it, and then you'll have to think about what decks beat the decks that beat Azalea, and then does Azalea beat those decks again? And nice, healthy metagame triangle.
What level do you put Dromai at then? What level? What level?
So
where does Dromai fall on that?
So I'm thinking if Azalea is level 1, and then you can build Dromai to beat Azalea, then
okay.
If you can do that, then Dromai is level 2. But also another counter I think to Azalea might be Oldheim. And I think you can make Dromai beat Oldheim too. Can you make Dromai beat both Oldheim and Azalea? If you can, then it's the perfect deck.
Okay, you've sold me. We're going to be Dromai gamers at the Pro Tour. Here we come.
Yeah, it's weird that we're not testing very much Dromai, huh?
What a coincidence. Don't give away those secrets like this. We've been hard at work on Dromai. It's all been a ruse this whole time.
And Bolton too, right?
Yeah, the Bolton v Dromai mirrors have been just crushing it nonstop because that's you started as Alien, then you go to Dromai, and then you go to Bolton. That's the level.
The natural progression is Bolton counters Dromai, who counters Azalea.
We already know the Pro Tour meta, Michael. We already figured it out.
You ever tried a Lumina combo with a frailty token?
Dromai doesn't have frailty tokens, Michael. That's why he's level 3.
He counters the Dromai. Okay.
Okay, well, on that very serious, good, poignant note, we're going to call it.
Thanks, Zelda.
Zelda's ready to call it. That's for sure. So on that note, I think we're ready to call it. And remember, the next time you're playing any hero in Flesh and Blood, any hero whatsoever, even Dromai, always remember, mind your manners. We'll see you next time.
Dromai's not that bad. We just haven't figured it out yet. Keep working on it. I believe in you, Dromai mates.